Good evening. Our show covers sensitive material, so viewer discretion is advised. Welcome to the H2G Podcast.
Hello, everybody. This is the H2G Podcast. I got Christy laughing already because I don't think she was ready for that. I got two people drinking mugs already. What is going on here? I see a little follow-up. We'll just start with the Christmas cheer of Christy. Christy, what is going on?
Hey, it's good to see your face. I missed you.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Well, last week we talked about it being too early for Christmas. So fuck all you haters, and I'm bringing Christmas until Christmas and beyond.
Yeah, my girlfriend doesn't understand why Christmas is already, there's already stuff ready. She was so super confused. There's
Sorry,
Christmas
Natalie.
stuff while Halloween stuff was still chilling, so Natalie was very confused.
Okay, well, Christmas brings me so much joy, and I'm not just gonna wait for all you people to say, oh, December 1st, or you have to wait until after Thanksgiving. I don't like Thanksgiving as much as I like Christmas. I want to be festive, and I want to enjoy my happiness while I can. So don't be dicks. Just let me party.
Well, yeah, we love the holidays here at HTG, not necessarily Christmas, but I agree with
Or
Christy.
Hanukkah, or Christmas,
You can celebrate,
or Kwanzaa.
You can celebrate
whatever
you want when you want. Haters, be doubted. You can wear your Halloween costume in February if you feel like it. Go for it.
Yeah,
I will.
do it. I'll wear Darth Vader for a February show.
I was about to say I might have a Captain America
Valentine's
episode.
Day.
All right, chugging the hot chocolate. What was this part of your week, Christy?
Ooh, shit. I should have been ready for this, but I'm not. Best part of my week is seeing your beautiful face. No. I mean, it is. It's a great part. You look nice. You look good. Never mind. I'm not going to say anything. Best part of my week is putting on my Christmas sweater. It just brings me a lot of joy. It does.
Okay.
I pulled it out of my closet and was like, yeah, Christmas raging through my veins. Coursing through my veins. I feel like raging through my veins.
Coursing. Coursing through your veins sounds a little more appropriate than raging.
I also have a lot
Although
of
it is kind of raging.
coursing through my veins. So. It's not
And
good.
hot chocolate.
Franzia, step up your game because it's not amazing. It's all right, but it's not.
Okay.
Franzia as in the box
You're
wine?
definitely amped up and ready to go.
Yes,
Yeah,
the
of
box
course.
wine.
Christy's very classy. Of course it's the box wine.
Pinky up.
Justo, how about you, brother?
What's up? Let me get to the best part of my week in a second. I do have to put in, I'm just going to go ahead and do this until the holiday is over. And hopefully we can avoid cancel culture. But I'm going to throw in my weekly fuck Thanksgiving. Richie's got to backpedal through the episode and find out why. But it's not too hard to figure out. My week was awesome. I'm glad to see you guys. I'm excited for the topic we have today. And then they had the awards ceremony for Moxley Manor, the haunted attraction I worked at in Dallas. And your boy took home top actor for Moxley Manor, which was awesome. So I'm pretty cool. Got to go laser tagging with my castmates and bowling and played some video games. And it was a good time. I don't get out literally ever except for work. So, and I've got a whole lot of shows coming up and work's going to be cranking into the holidays. So it was nice to go and kind of blow off some steam. I did fifth out of 35 people in laser tag. So not as good as I was as a kid, but still pretty good. It auto-named me Deadpool, so I feel like I had to do well. And then I won the one bowling game I played, which was cool. So,
Okay.
all in all, good day. 2 wins and a fifth.
Hey, man, when you start getting old, you can't do it. You can't compare yourself to when you're young.
Yeah,
You're never going to be.
I was probably
same
jumping
you
off
were back
walls and rolling around. What was the best?
And you were moving more, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest, you're not putting the same effort into not getting shot. It's just not happening.
True.
You
I was
back
just
to a
get
smaller target as well.
right. Yeah, that's true. I'm much larger now. Richie, what was the best part of your week?
Nice.
No,
best part of my week. Color doesn't change the size of him being a target because they wear the same thing. It's the same size regardless of how tall you are. Oh my goodness.
At least I'm not as big of a target as I was season 1. We'll just say that.
Okay, fair enough. I will say what's not the best part of my week, and that is Jordan's influence on Justo and this ridiculous Bucky stuff I keep saying. Look at this. He's literally wearing the Bucky shirt with the hat. It's hard for me because I love you as a brother, but at the same time, why do you wear such stupid looking clothes? Like, look how he literally, never mind. This is not appropriate to say. I was going to say something really nasty about Buc-ee's. I'm not going to say it. It involved a certain syndrome. We're not going there. We're going to stay positive because it's H2G. And even though I really despise that logo, I'm going to move on from this subject. The best part of my week was the most stressful part of my week, which is I'm going to be doing a very large project that I cannot talk about, unfortunately, on this podcast. But it's going to be stressing me out because I'm going to be on call 24/7, and it involves $22 million. So as much as it's bad and stressful and anxiety, it's a good opportunity for my career. So yeah, technically, it's the best part of my week. So that's the best part of my week. We're going to jump into our topic. I am at my girlfriend's place, so it's a little, I'm like trying to figure out what I'm going to look at when you guys are talking, because I don't like to look at you when you're talking.
Richie, we actually have one more before we can jump in.
Yeah. Oh, one more.
Maybe. Oh, we do have one more. Okay. Okay. Then we are not done, people. We are waiting on the one and only. Wait for it.
DJ Tony Ray.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was there the whole time. I was just being an asshole. Okay, Tony, man, how's your weekend?
Man, it's good. It's going great. I'm glad to be here. Had to put the shirt on. Had to represent. Mm-hmm. Yes. Christy, why are you shaking your head? Come on now. Get that Christmas shit out of here. No.
Too early.
That is right. What is going down, my fam?
Not much, brother. We just talked about our week. How about you? What was the best part of your week?
Oh, let's see. So the best part of my week, man. Let me see. Well, honestly, being here with the three of you, not to
Stop it. Get out of here.
Oh.
What?
I already used that one. Go find your own reason to be happy this week.
No, I can't. I mean, I have a loving wife. I have kids. I'm finally feeling up to par after recovering from the COVID-19, whatever. I probably had the Delta. Who knows what I had? But the first 5 days, I tell you, that shit sucked. I'm just telling you, I'm just being honest. I lost my smell. I could taste. Look at Richie all up in the video. But, I had to miss a couple weeks, so I'm just happy to be back. Last week was great. We talked a little bit, about cancel culture and all that stuff. And, that was fun. So I'm just happy to be here to talk about, some more stuff. Let's bring the heat.
Okay. Well, we're about to talk some more controversial topic here. Maybe not controversial. We'll see what the panel thinks. Now, I kind of briefly described this as the pay gap and the optics behind that. Optics being the key word. I was hoping someone would take the bait. I think Justin took the bait, but we'll see. Is he going to champion the quote-unquote optics of the women's pay gap? Now, what I'd like to talk about briefly, because I'm not going to hit statistics and things of that nature. Let's just go around the horn with a simple lob question. Do you believe there is a pay gap in the gender payment? How much is it? Because we've heard statistically that it's been 30%, as in like women make 70 cents to the man's dollar. We've heard all kinds of figures, 72, 78, 82, 88. What is it? Does it exist? And do you believe things need to change? I would hope the latter being yes, regardless. But we're going to start it off with the first person who showed up last. Tony, what do you think, brother? Is there a gender gap in pay?
Well, Is there is the question, and yes, there is the answer. I did something a little bit different, so I don't know if you really want me to go first, but I will. We'll vote on it. I actually reached out to some people that listen to the podcast and got their viewpoints, and it's female viewpoints that I wanted to bring to the table since we're having this discussion this week. So if you want, I can just go right into reading what these lovely people have wrote to me, and I will not use their name. You want me to do that, or do you want to go around the horn and get everybody else's real quick answer?
I'll tell you what, let's go around the horn. We'll save the ladies outside of this show's opinions for after the horn. So we'll just move on to Christy. Tony does believe it exists. He did not touch whether or not it should be changed, but that's okay, because we believe and we know him having a daughter and a wife, it should be changed. Christy, what about you?
Personal experience, no, there is no pay gap.
Okay, Christy's saying no. Big X.
Sorry.
All right, Justin, we're just gonna move on. Because if there isn't one in her brain, obviously things don't need to change. Justin.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to stay out of what I prepared just because you wanted a general answer. So I do, after the research that I've done, and just generally, I figured there was one. I didn't have an idea of what it was. I did research. From what I can see, there definitely is a pay gap. And it absolutely should be changed. And I'll get into a little more firmness on that as we go.
Okay. Curious on that. There's a pay gap, people. Don't listen to Christy. There is a pay gap. What that gap is what we can't really quantify because unfortunately there's variables and things of that nature. But let me tell you one thing. Just because there's a pay gap does not mean in all circumstances women are being underpaid. We'll get into that in a little bit. But I just want to touch up on what Tony said. And yes, it should change. Tony, please, you did a little poll, little discussion with some women, some listeners of the show. Hopefully one of them is who I think it is, but we'll see. It's going to stay anonymous. But Tony, please share some other ladies' opinions.
All right. So I'm going to read to you verbatim what I got here. So, do you feel as though you are not paid as much as a man, and how does that make you feel? This person responded, women are most definitely not paid as much as men. Women have a penalty just for being able to bear children, according to this person. I had an interview where the hiring manager asked how old I was and proceeded to say, are you thinking about having children? I laughed it off, but the harsh reality is that he was contemplating even hiring me because he knew I was in my childbearing years. Moving forward, when it came to pay in that role, there wasn't a male's pay to compare it to because they only hired girls for the role and for the company, which I think is the differentiator between men and women. Men and women are hired for different jobs. Women are hired to be the nurse, the school teacher, the office administrator, and all of those jobs are extremely undervalued. Not enough jobs for women in engineering, not enough jobs for women in other high-paying positions or occupations. So that's what this person said. Now, before I move on to the next thing, I just have to ask a question. I'm not trying to take the show away from you, Richie. But
do what you want.
There's the ideology that if you have a child and the child is sick, and the child has to come home from daycare, my question to Christy is, who's the parent that will go and pick up Lucas if he has to be sick or has to come home?
It depends.
Is it you or is it Matt?
I normally go because I don't have as many meetings as Matt, but as soon as Lucas comes home, he is Matt's responsibility.
Okay.
Because gotcha. Matt gets actual free PTO for kids being homesick.
Gotcha. Okay. That's a good thing. A lot of people aren't in that situation. I just wanted to ask and see, not to put you on blast like that, but I definitely wanted to ask. So the next person that I asked This was a little lengthy, so I do apologize in advance about this, but it's a little lengthy right here.
It should be lengthy.
This person states, I don't believe that because I am a female, a business will pay me less than a male as an employee. So why do I believe that? I did some research before I answered your question of how I feel about the gender pay gap. I wanted to make sure my opinion was based on the best facts I could find rather than minimum information and feeling. I watched a couple videos by those who believe there is a gender pay gap, and they all left me with questions. Where did they get this data? How did they come up with this data? The videos provided their facts but had nothing to back it up. Then I watched a couple of videos that claim that gender pay gap is a myth. Their information was based on independent studies which they referenced in a variety of statistics and variables. The gender pay gap is determined by dividing the median earning of women by the median earning of men. So yes, there's a pay gap by gender only plays a small role in that because of the pay gap. The solution doesn't take into account the different career choices, hence what I said earlier, and levels of education of individual women overwhelmingly occupying the top 5 worst paying career fields, such as counseling, psychology, early childhood education, and social work, where men predominantly occupy the top 5 highest paying career fields, such as chemical engineering, aerospace engineering, mathematics, and computer science. Why is this? Because those are the areas of interest that each individual choose to pursue based on their own personal reasons. But are they paid at the same level if there was a man that was in those different occupations is the question that I have. This isn't based off of what this person wrote. Men and women are willing to work the high-paying jobs, but in the long hours and getting high levels of education. But when you count the numbers, there are more men than women that do this, which increases their median wages earned and perceived gender pay gap. There are so many variables that drive wage. Ultimately, the question is meant to divide us. If you don't believe there is a pay gap, then you're a denier and a sexist, this person wrote. There is a gap, but it's not because businesses are sexist. That would be illegal and pay discrimination. So based off of what this person is saying, and I will finish up with a little bit more that they have, I believe some people may still try to pay women less than men. Probably there will always be those who choose to do wrong, but I do not think it is an overwhelming problem plaguing our nation. If women believe they should be paid more, then they, like men, need to do what's needed to get that higher wage. So that was a lot to digest. That was a lot of stuff that went all over the place, and I respect the person that sent this and applaud that person. My last one is not as lengthy. So the third person wrote this. So I think it sucks being a woman in a workplace. I cannot imagine being a POC, which is a person of color, and a woman in the workplace. I have quit a job before because I knew that when my boss left, they wouldn't promote me because I am not a man. When the leadership in the organization is made up of the old boys club, women are doomed to fail. When there is progressive leadership when there is progressive leadership is when a woman can thrive. I have been a few different workplaces with how they function and currently work at a place where everyone higher than me on the org chart is a woman with a child. Therefore, hence, this is not in there, I'm just saying this, I have a chance. So, those are my 3 outside people that listen to the podcast opinions about pay gap. And if there is any. So, I'll defer back to you, Richie, before I dive into my opinion. I know you want to kick some questions around, so go right ahead.
Ooh, I mean, I don't even know if I need to now. I had an entire plan. But, we got very broad opinions, and I appreciate all three of them. But I honestly wish those people were here with us right now, because boy, do I have questions for them, and I can't answer, have you guys answer them because it's not fair. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a scenario. We're going to make this real quick. It was going to be longer, but Tony kind of threw a beautiful curveball at me. So, I don't know if you know anything about women's soccer. It's been a little hot topic. Joe Biden was saying pay them equally. In 2019, women's soccer filed a charge against U.S. soccer, claiming that they made less than the men. And the judge ruled that the women make more than the men. Yet we're still talking about it in 2021. Here, let me explain what really happened. There was contract negotiations between the men and the women with U.S. soccer. Obviously, they have their own separate ones because they're two genders. The men chose to get paid per performance, but they got no guaranteed pay and they get no health insurance. The women chose the security. They chose health insurance and guaranteed pay, but they get paid less per performance. 4 years later, they sue U.S. soccer saying they're being paid less than the men. Well, of course you are. It's a different contract, right? So this is kind of what I want to talk about optics. This is one of the few times where I feel like when I say optics, I do mean optics. I do believe in a lot of fields, women are paid less than men. Now, depending on what those fields are, is the margin at the end of the day, right? But this is an example of where I find the optics of the news to be kind of frustrating, because they do the same thing with the WNBA, and it drives me nuts. All right, because my sister, she and I had a debate about this. She was telling me the women are so underpaid, and I said, how do you figure, right? When you look at the numbers, they generate less than 400,000 viewers. They have less than 20,000 people in the stands. And then the argument is always, if there was more advertising, it would be more successful. And my question to you is, would that really be the case? Are you watching the WNBA? Are you trying to help them succeed? Or are you just looking at a very easy point of contention that Sue Bird makes $700,000 and LeBron James makes $40 million? Did you know the WNBA is subsidized by the NBA? It is not even profitable. So where is this money going to come from, quite frankly? So that's why I said optics earlier when we were discussing this as a panel. Obviously, as the audience, you don't even really know what I'm referring to. I told everyone we're going to talk about gender wage optics. Now, let me clarify. I'm a firm believer that there's a gender discrimination, although it sounds like Christy doesn't believe that's the case. Having said that, this is an example of optics that I wanted to talk about to you. So my question is going to start right off with Justin, because I know he's Mr. Statistics. He did his research. He was ready, but I don't want him wearing a MAGA hat. I don't want him looking that way. So Justin, don't go too crazy on this, but please give the audience your perspective on what I said, optics. Because I know you did some research in terms of percentages and when you feel like something is strong, like skew. What was some of the things you came up with when I refer to optics? Because again, there is a gender gap. I'm not claiming there's not, but some of the optics I'm referring to. So Justin, please give me some facts.
Let me rattle off these web pages real quick that I worked through. Looked through AmericanProgress.org. They had a report, issues, women, and gender wage gap. There was WSJ.com, just researched the pay gap, SPIE.org. It was a salary survey. And then where I did most of my research, the one I found the most interesting was EPI.org. It's a great website, by the way, a lot of information. Their publication is titled, "What is the Gender Pay Gap and Is It Real?" So I wanted to go back in time to The Wire, because I brought that. You actually brought that story up. That's funny. When we were thinking about this, I remembered bringing. I saw a meme of Sue Bird next to LeBron James, and it had their salaries, and I was like, "Hey guys, is this worth talking about?" You all remember that discussion? And I learned a lot, and I was like, "Oh, it's not possible." So I tried to look at this from a flat angle. There was a lot of questions that EPI decided to answer, and I just wanted to bring a few of them to light. One says, how much do women make relative to men? A typical or median woman working full-time is paid 80 cents for every dollar. A typical man working full-time is paid, so like 80 cents on the dollar. When evaluated by wages per hour, a typical woman is paid 83 cents for every dollar that a man is paid. Both measures are correct, but examining women's earnings per hour is the preferred way of looking at the wage gap. So that's what they came up with their various means of researching exact positions and across the board, women versus men in that same position in that same field. The next one I had was right here. Does a woman's race or ethnicity affect how much she makes relative to a man? This one I thought was interesting. Asian and white women at the median actually experience the biggest gaps relative to Asian and white men, respectively. But that is due in part to the fact that Asian and white men make much more than Black or Hispanic men. Relative to white non-Hispanic men, Black and Hispanic women workers are paid 65 cents and 58 cents on the dollar, respectively, compared with 81 cents for white non-Hispanic women workers and 90 cents for Asian women. No, that's a lot of numbers. Just some stuff that I thought was pretty interesting. To me, when you're looking at the optics of it, there's a couple of different ways that you can look at it. You can look at it like this, very statistically, and do try to do a general research poll across positions. CRO titles or CMO titles or CEOs is a little bit different, but high level positions. You can look at general managers at retail locations. You can look at positions of opportunity within different companies and try to measure between men and women and see what the gap comes out to be. These people found like a 20-cent gap roughly. The other way to look at it is the actual optics. A construction company. If Christy walks into a construction company, what job are they going to interview her for and actually consider her for as a woman with a child? That is where my brain goes on the pay gap. And that's the very real part that I believe. And when I looked at the topic for this week, I was like, well, there's got to be a gap, right? Because of that fact. I think the opportunity might be handed to men in a lot of positions. Now, I'm happy to say I work for a company that does not work that way. They are very equal across the board, and I'm proud to work for this company. But I feel like just across all positions, if you were to look at these numbers that I'm looking at, everybody should have the same opportunity. If you're a CMO at the same company, you should make the exact same money. Or if you have gone through two separate tracks, if you go through a marketing track and you go through a sales track, there needs to be reasons like Richie brought up for someone going down the sales track to be making more money other than their sex. You know what I mean? Like that's where the optics can get blurred, because sales might just turn more money. They may have a commission structure that turns more money than somebody who's got a guaranteed salary, kind of like the NBA versus the WNBA. I hope that somewhat answers.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That was kind of the question, essentially. Tony, I'm going to ask you slightly different. We're not going to talk about optics. We're going to be talking directly about information. So I looked at Pew Research, which claimed it's 84% or 84 cents on the dollar for men and women, but that includes full-time and part-time. If the difference is the U.S. Census Bureau only does full-time, and in full-time it's 82%. So you're talking an 18 to 16 cent margin or percentage. So that's a reality. Now, again, what I'd also like to clarify by this research is this is not, equal job specific. This is taking median incomes, right? And we've already heard about, the potentials of those differences. And I'm going to wait till we get to the next round before I ask that question. But here's my question to you, Tony. I'm going to give you one figure and I want you to digest this. 1980, women from 25 to 34 earned 33 cents less. Now it's 25 to 34 earned 7 cents less in 2020. for the same field. This is the same field because that's the stuff we haven't been talking about. In the same field, women are still 7% field to field. This isn't overall, this is field to field on average 7%. Hearing that, what do you think? Do you think that's good that it's jumped up? Or do you think 7 to 10% is still a problem? Or why do you think that's even happening since that it is happening?
Wow. So you had to throw all that at me right there. I see how you are.
I wanted you to just do it on the spot. He's
you're
a prepared man, people, so I love to mess with him.
And just to piggyback off of Richie, the Pew Research Center it was established in 2004, and it's a nonpartisan think tank. So making sure you all know that's where Richie was getting that information from. So listen, over time, it's not 1920. So obviously people are making different money than they would be back then, correct? So 34 to 7 is an increase, but there still shouldn't be a gap. And that's just how I feel on the whole thing. If you're going to do a job, it should be equal. If you have the same background, if you have this, everything is the same. It needs to be equal straight across the board. I will put myself on the front for right now. I won't tell you where I worked, but I talked to a person. We both had the same background, went to Wright State, same years, same degree. We got hired on for this position. He got hired on for $90,000. I got hired on for $70,000. Okay. And the lady that was hired on got paid $65,000. The only difference between the three of us was the lady actually had a major and a minor, and she had an associate's degree. So technically, she was far more advanced. Yeah, and far more advanced than we were. That, to me, is a problem. All three of us should have came in at the same pay, and that's just how I feel. You know, I'm not saying that, you know, other people might look at it differently. I'm just saying if the three of us came in with the same background and everything's the same, we all should have got paid the same. It could have been 70 and I would have been fine. But the fact that the white male got 20,000 more than me and got 25,000 more than the woman, that to me is what I think is unfair.
Interesting. So here's one question, Tony, because I don't know if I heard that correctly. I understood that she has degrees in what she worked, but what about work experience in terms of like how much the other guy worked, you worked, etc.?
For the man, it was 10. The white man was 10. For me, it was 7. And for the female, it was 4 years.
Got it. Okay. Well,
in that field.
Got it. We will get back to it. This is getting really spicy. Christy had a little look on her face.
I'm going in, it's 1st and 10. I'm a legend boy, a champion. They can't match the flows, the X's and O's. I'm breaking the code, devastation about to unfold. They calling me Derek by the way y'all roll. Bet you never ever seen a pro this cold. I float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. I mix with I am Mike and the great Ali. I'm a running back, believe me baby. I fathered the game, call me Daddy Brady. I'm like that, try be like this. Sammy, so that boy don't miss. It's the return of the greatest. Any way you name it, I'm everybody's favorite. I'm bringing the pain and bringing the fire. Hey, stay tuned, it's going down to the wire.
Welcome back, everybody. Christy had a spicy look on her face. We're going straight to that. I was going to say something to Tony, but it doesn't even matter. Christy, what were you thinking? What was going on? You had a face. I'm not used to seeing that.
I did have a face. I have a face most days. Some days my face is not there, but I got a face. Tony, follow-up question for you. When you were offered $70,000, or were you offered $70,000, or were you offered $65,000 and then you counter-offered?
I was offered 70.
And you didn't counter-offer?
No.
You thought it was a good salary because you didn't do any research.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but it was $20,000 more than what I was making before. So yeah, it was good for me.
Right. So like you were fine with your salary until you found out somebody else was making more, right?
I was always fine about the 70,000. Yeah.
Okay. So I feel like people don't understand how to negotiate a higher salary. The white guy did. I will say that negotiating favors people that know what they're doing. And most white people are assholes, dicks, all of the above. Like, I don't know how to negotiate. Matt is an asshole and he says, hey, you deserve to make more money. I'm like, oh, no, I'm good. It's fine. I work for a not-for-profit. Like, I would work for free. He's like, no, you need to make more money. So like white males, I will say they're better at negotiating. Like the female, she's probably like, oh, I'm not necessarily qualified, because I did this in one of my first positions. They're like, oh, you need to have all of these skills, 10 years experience, blah, blah, blah. So you do your little research like, oh, this position though should be making $90,000. Oh, but I don't have all of the requirements. So you know what? 65, that's reasonable. And it's $20,000 more than I was making. Yes, I will take it. It's not that females get paid less because the company's like, oh, they're a female, we can pay them less. It's because we don't know what we're worth. Do your research, figure out how to counteroffer, because you can make more money. Just do it. They offered me $40,000 at my current position. I said, hell no, I would like more money. And they're like, you know what? You're right. We'll bump you up. Great. Wonderful. Thank you. I have a college degree. I have experience. Do your fucking research. Like there should be a pay gap because you should know what you're worth. Don't just say, oh, it sounds good. Sorry. Like that's just my opinion. If you think, oh, $65,000 is good. Great. Wonderful. Don't bitch that he makes $25,000 more than you because you didn't fucking counteroffer. He did.
Did he?
I'm going to assume he did.
Did he? Do you know?
I'm going to say the companies that I've worked for, if you go in saying, hey, I want a reasonable offer. The company offers first, you counter. Then they counter back. You accept, you re-counter. Like that's how negotiations work. You do it with your house. If you're buying your house at market value, okay, current housing market aside, like you're fucking yourself. They're overpriced.
Interesting. Okay.
So with the job, the company wants to pay you as little as they possibly can. Pull it out of them.
Okay, interesting. Well, you know, before I give you, I'm going to counter you, quite frankly. Before I say that, what I would like to say is, Christy, thank you for bringing this kind of topic up, because this is one of the arguments that people talk about when we're talking about gender wage gap and gender discrimination in the workforce. And that's why I'm going to kind of counter what you just discussed. But what I would like to say is, predominantly, that is an accurate statement in terms of men are considered, whether this is fact or not, men are considered better negotiators. I'm not going to get into the complete semantics of what she said, but what I will say is I do not believe white men are better negotiators than Asians at all. Because if you look at Indians and you look at Asians, go to any market that they work at, you have to talk them down. Like they try to charge you more. You have to fight for that. White people don't fight for anything. They walk up, they get what they want. So I don't know where you're getting that they're better negotiators than other people. But anyways, that's beside the point. We'll move on from that random statement. What I would like to say is that, yeah, that is a big part of what people discuss when we're discussing this topic, quite frankly, is negotiation. So Christy brought up some great points. I'm not necessarily sure I agree, but I like that she brought them up because this is what many people feel and believe. And that's not accurate or inaccurate. It's a belief, right? It's her opinion, as she said. So I'd like to point that out. But what I will say is the only thing that makes this challenging, and usually when I talk to people who discuss about negotiation skills, is the only part of the argument I don't like is they negotiated better. You weren't there in the room, you don't know. So here's an example. I work as an export coordinator. If you look at the median, I'll tell you how much I make, I really don't care. If you look at the median average, they make $34,000 per year. I make over $100,000 per year. Now, did I negotiate so much better that I'd be worth that? Or here's a better question for you. If my name was Alejandro Lopez, would I be making over $100,000 instead of my name being Richie Phillips? So just food for thought on that in terms of that. But having said that, we will move on. Christy brought up some great points because that was something that, quite frankly, is one of the biggest discussions when we talk about gender pay. And one of the things that I like to talk about now is gender discrimination, because it kind of leads into this topic. One of the things we can all agree on is that there are fields, because this is one of the arguments, and I believe opinion number 2 that Tony brought up was kind of in this ballpark. Men tend to dominate, and that's why I always love when we have these words. When we talk about men, dominate. Men dominate these fields of high pay, like astronomy and engineering. So these men are dominating these fields. But just so you know, in astronomy, women, and I brought up astronomy, don't even have the opportunity, even though they want to be astronomers. They don't get hired. Did you know less than 3% of astronomers are women? That's fucking insane. And that's not necessarily, because this is always the argument. Oh, but women don't want to be astronomers. Says who? You don't know? So this is a problem, in my opinion, because it's the hiring perspectives. Another example, we'll go on the other side of the token. We know education is important. We know teachers are underpaid. But we also know, and this is just a fact of life, that women dominate that field, right? So here's a question I have for you guys, because a lot of people don't really think about this. Are teachers underpaid because America doesn't view education as important like that, like a doctor, for instance, or I don't know, a football player? Come on, guys, right? Tennis players, you know, who needs to be a teacher? Or is it because it's a woman-dominated field? Because when you look at what I'm just referring to, and as we discussed, the fields that women tend to gravitate towards pay less. And is it a cause and effect? This is a chicken and the egg question. There's no right or wrong, but it's just food for thought. So what say you, Justin? We're going to go back. We're going to talk about education. Let's just go to the teacher thing. Women are teachers. Teachers make less than everyone else. I'm dumbing this down on purpose because I like to. What do you think about this, man? Do you think this is gender discrimination, or do you think this just happens to be happenstance and coincidence? I don't want your numbers. I want your heart.
No, I don't even have any numbers on that. So like, man, to me, there's so many fields like that are underpaid and are dominated by women. I mean, the nursing field, one might argue. I just saw a friend of mine who she has great negotiating skills. She worked for, I think it was 11 years to get from nurse to surgical nurse practitioner. So she like teaches surgical nurses. And she just found out that the starting wage, because she was seeing something about how this has progressed over the past 10 years, the starting wage that she saw all those years ago is like $30 more on the salary than it was when she started. I mean, it hasn't progressed literally at all. So I'd say nurses, I don't know. I did talk to my significant other about this, and she's in property management. She said, well, right now, no, because there's hardly any men that work for us except for maintenance with any of the different properties. So like, but property management is almost all women. Teachers, I know for a fact that schools are underpaid across the board. And so I don't know, to say that is gender discrimination would be hard, because there are a lot of male teachers and principals and faculty members that are also underpaid within the education. So, you know, I don't have numbers for it, but I would need to see the numbers, teacher to teacher, principal to principal. You know what I mean? Because to me, that's where that lies. But, you know, like what I can speak to is in sales. the hot shot white sales guy with, 3 years of like door to door or 3 years of retail floor sales experience is going to get more leads for car sales than the hot shot women salesman. I've just seen that, and I know women who feel that the odds are stacked against them in the field when it comes to just straight sales. So I know I'm kind of snowballing, but to answer that question, I think the education is just getting screwed in general.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Christy raised her hand. I've never seen that on the H2G podcast. So Christy, please.
We're talking about school, and I feel like I need to raise my hand. So you mentioned like hot shot female car salespeople. When you go to buy a car, who do you buy a car from? Do you go to the female or do you go to the male? Is it a biased customer purchase that leads to these discrepancies in that case? Well, is it the customer's fault or is it the male-female thing?
The one dealership that I've ever actually done business with, there were no female saleswomen or salespeople on the floor at all. And they bombard the door. So that, I guess, is where my frustration with this is the opportunity, like we said at the beginning, seems to be more present for men. But I also buy the majority of my vehicles off of Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. So,
wait a second.
I do the work myself, or my dad helps me do the work. So I mean, we look for cars that still have lots of life left in them and make it so practical. Practical.
That sounds. I have a word for that. I also have a word for that. We like to call that cheap sometimes too, but that's okay. That's okay, Justin.
You can. I'm looking at a right now that's around
frugal. Frugal is the word.
Frugal. Excuse me. Frugal. Oh, sorry. That's a less mean word. Frugal. Frugal. Facebook Marketplace. Yeah, boom roasted. Peoples. So here's something, Tony. You already know where I'm going with. This is Pew Research. We're going into it. Mothers in the USA are more likely than fathers to say they needed to reduce their work hours or felt like they couldn't give 100% at work. Reduced hours, 54% of women to 44% of men. 51% feel like they couldn't give 100% at work versus 43% of fathers. 23% of women turned down a promotion to 15% for men. So, do those numbers mean anything to you at all, Tony? Should they?
Yeah, it means I suck. It means I suck based off of those numbers. And I'm only saying that because I'm putting my situation at hand. So the reason why I asked Christy that question earlier was because if Harper or Reese ever got sick, I don't remember a time where I was like, hey, babe, do you need for me to go pick the kids up? Do you need for me to take PTO time? It was just assumed that she was going to take care of all the needs for the children. Now that's shitty to have that assumption or not even ask, how can I help you? Because the last time I checked, with Lucas in the background, the last time I checked, this was a partnership. This wasn't one-sided. And then who then gets neglected, not neglected in that kind of, who gets penalized is a better word for that kind of action if Carrie is the one that always has to not go to work because the children are sick or whatever. So then she's getting looked at as not dependable or problematic because, oh, her kids are always sick. This is just a hypothetical, but this is in reality, touches on those numbers that you talked about. I think a lot of times we as human beings, we put everything off on the mothers, and the mothers do a lot of the grunt work. Therefore, they get viewed this way by certain people. It's not everybody. It's not always the white man. It's a lot of different factors that we're trying to talk about on why we're still sitting where we sit. And it's not 100% of a dollar that women make versus men. And that's why we're having this conversation.
Yeah, Tony, that is the last topic of discussion, what you just mentioned, because one of the things you have to consider when we start factoring these things in is statistically, as we all understand, women are going to be taking time off, as we've mentioned, to the option or person one that you even mentioned. They have to take time off to take care of their kids after they have a pregnancy and have a child. If they have a child, of course, that doesn't have to happen. And quite frankly, should that matter? But that is what some people use to justify this margin. They justify it as, well, this person's taking time off work, right? Oh, this person's taking 4 months out of the year. So why should they be paid equally to someone else? And oh my goodness, I was trying to focus on the topic at task and Justin throws some Facebook Marketplace thing at me. Let me get back to the point. Good grief, Justin. Wait till the show's over. Good grief. So my point being is that sometimes that's used. That's used to justify it as, oh, well, women take time off more. Or the other argument that men work many more hours than women. And even though their salary, that's the difference, is they're burning the campfire and they're spending more time and they're working 120 hours in the week when the woman in the same salary is working 80, as if either of those are positive things to say. As if we should be working that many hours in a week. It's ridiculous. But Christy, you know what? You've been saying all the controversial things. I have no questions for you. I just want you to say whatever's on your brain. Please feel free. Racist, sexist, whatever you want. Go for it. Give me.
Oh, you're giving me free range racist, sexist,
Oh, God.
everything? What's religious, sis? What is that called?
Nobody cares about religious people. That's why we don't care.
Oh,
like,
all
you
right.
can say what you
Look
want.
at you. But what is that? Like religious, sis? Yeah.
You can't be religious-ists. Religious-isms.
I know. I can be sexist.
You're just atheists and you make fun of religious people. That's all.
Oh.
Word.
You can't be prejudiced. Like, there's no that's what Christian people do claim, though, that they're prejudiced.
Okay, but the whole like Hitler against Jews, like what was that? I mean, I know he's a piece of shit.
Well, that's discriminatory, but
I know, but it was based on religion. What is that called?
Well, just discrimination based on religion.
You literally
Just
know everything
fucked
about everything, and I'm so like taken aback that you don't know this. What do I want to say? The boys should be in the kitchen where they belong, and the girls need to go to work. It's like Bluey. Have you guys seen that episode of Bluey? I have.
I haven't, but I know Bluey's a banger. My sister and my nieces went as Bluey.
I saw that. It was super cute. But yes, I had the kids because my husband is making dinner. Teamwork makes the dream work. Do your research. Don't be underpaid.
Oh, Christy, by the way, there's no such thing as religious-ism. It's religious discrimination, as I said. I Googled it.
The same thing.
It needs a name.
It doesn't need a word.
It needs a word.
Nobody's important because your argument counter to me is calling me a heretic if I don't believe in your religion, correct? So why should I care what you have to say in your religion? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but there's so many acts of violence against religious culture, like religious groups.
Yeah, they just call it
there
stupid.
should be a thing.
Exactly. They call it stupidity. That's exactly why it's religious discrimination. You're not a people. You just have a belief.
It's exactly like me saying that Buzz Lightyear is better than Woody. It's the exact same thing. Both fictional characters.
Okay, shut
one's
up.
better than the other.
Nope, you out.
Whoa.
You're canceled.
Wow. Okay.
See, I got canceled because I had a non-popular opinion.
I gave you free reign.
Literally,
Justin, you just crossed the line.
It's literally groups of people. There needs to be a word for that. I think
there doesn't though.
When there should be. Because like when temples get like bombed or shot up or churches get shot and like people with those beliefs, like the whole Holocaust thing. I mean, that sounded really insensitive. Sorry, I totally
that sounded very insensitive. The Holocaust thing.
I totally believe it happened. it did happen. Hitler sucks. Stalin is a demon spawn. I don't know if that's actually a whole thing. I'm really bad at history. Tony knows that because he is a black man and he knows things. You said I could be racist and sexist.
I did.
And
I didn't
all
know
the
you were
above.
actually gonna, like all in on this, but
I don't know. You gave me free reign. I never get free reign because I shouldn't get free reign. I can't open a close. I can't open a close. I can't open a show. I can't close a show. I just.
Well, you're doing great right now, Christy. But
thank you. Is it because I'm a woman? Is that why you're saying that? Because this really sucks.
It's because you negotiated, Christy. That's why.
It's because you're negotiating right now. You're negotiating that religious discrimination should have a term. You're negotiating with me.
Because
just so
you
know, you have to
like
negotiate with Merriam-Webster, not me.
But like,
I'd say what Hitler did to the Jews was a hate crime.
Yeah, but terrorism itself—that's the point. Like,
yeah, but that's such a broad term. Like, I can be sexist against you, but they call it like a crime of, I don't know.
Kind of hate.
If you're sexist against me, then it's one gender to the other. It's very specific.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know why you're fighting. I don't know why you're dying on this hill over
I'm not dying on a hill. I just don't know what else to talk about because I wrote down everything. Do more research. Know what your worth is. Ask for more. Pay gap.
So to all you ladies out there, if you just heard Christy, know your worth.
Know your worth.
Look it up. Google it. Like
negotiate
salaries.
Negotiate.
Mm-hmm. Negotiate.
Change your skin tone if you're POC.
Jennifer Lawrence, Scarlett Johansson, Angelina Jolie, negotiate because
negotiate better, ladies.
15 million to 20 million per movie, and The Rock's making 87, and Daniel Craig's making 100.
It's your fault, ladies.
Seriously.
Do your research.
No, I'm saying do not take the first offer. Do not tell them like, oh, I would just like to make more than what I made at my last job. No.
Uber. Negotiate.
Don't give them a number. Make them offer first, and then you know where their baseline is, and go up from there. If you can't get more money, get more vacation.
But what happens, Christy, if Richie's my plan B at 30,000 more, and we know we're going to get more work out of Richie because we're a sexist company? So we offer you 40,000 to see if we can get it. But Richie, we'll just pay him 70,000 and the job will be done. So if you counter offer, then we go, no, we've gone with someone else.
But see, to Christy's
okay, but
point,
then I could sue you because it's sexist.
But you wouldn't know that he's doing that.
You wouldn't know that that's why we did it.
It's not that
say that we went with someone else.
But that's the problem, and that's what Christy's trying to say is do your research, know your worth. Just because I bring, someone in at, let me use a real life example. Starting salary is normally $16 per hour in the restaurant for a cook. But I could bring in somebody else with the name that Richie said earlier because they just want a job. And I can pay them $10 to $11. And since you can be fired for talking about how much you make, which I think is really weird. That's to Christy's point. The person that came in should have, said, hey, don't undervalue yourself. You could make $16 an hour or more. And that's the problem is a lot of people, they're not doing that research. They're not going out there. They're not saying, hey, this is what I'm going to do. They just want to do that job. And I can see what Chrissy's talking about. Man, that's what's keeping it down. And as long as, because companies don't want to pay that kind of money. They really don't. And so the reality is if we value ourselves higher and we put a stand on it, then, we just have to, do that collectively. The problem is you're always going to have Joe Schmo who's going to be like, hey, I just want a damn job. I'm going to go ahead and do this for whatever it is that I can take. So, I mean, that's what's setting it back. And the reality is that we really shouldn't be doing that anymore. And the fact of the matter is there's a lot of other factors that play a big part of this, and we want to throw it to the white man, and it's not always the white man's fault. It's whoever's running that damn company. And I know a lot of women owners as well that want to keep that confined so that way that bottom line hits them, so that way they can have their 7th house and their 20th yacht. So, you know, who's seen the and not to go off topic and not to take this away, who saw The Closer for Dave Chappelle? Did you see it? Okay. So the slave that was given his freedom, he bought land, he had his land. And the only thing he knew how to make more out of what he had was to get more slaves, because that was the system that worked then. Does it mean it's correct? Absolutely not. But the fact that it works is the reason why people do the shitty things that they do, and we stand for it because that's all it is. That's just my final say.
Oh, well, you know what? On that note, let's go across the board. Let's do some final thoughts. Christy, give me your final thoughts. But this time you have a filter.
This like last word or final thoughts on the topic?
Last word.
Okay.
We're doing a last word. Tony kind of gave us a beautiful last word. So let's segment.
You wouldn't put your salary on your resume. Don't put it on your application. Don't give it to the employer. Let them offer first.
Okay, wise words. And then negotiate. Justin.
Well, she left, but I was going to say I appreciate Christy's opinion. I'm not saying just because I argued it. I do think that she's right when it comes to doing your research, but across the board, you should try to recognize the only way that anything gets changed is on an individual level, because this country has proven time and time again that we can't do anything together. Something won't let us. To speak to one of our fans that wrote in, there are lots of division tactics out there, and I would not be surprised if this discussion was part of that. But I do stand by my original statement that there is an obvious pay gap, and rather than like other things, stating how far we've come, how about we just fix the issue? Because, you know, if you even look back to our BLM episode, we played a clip of Maya Angelou talking about that. And she herself said, you know, we always talk about how far we've come, but if you really looked at it on a level of equality, we haven't come very far at all. And that's the point. Like, everything should be equal. So if you have any impact on this discussion in your workplace, if there's anything that you can do or you recognize anything, do it. Otherwise, do like research, like Christy said. Before you get a job, before you involve yourself with the company, make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into. Shameless plug for the podcast. Check out The Wire on Wednesdays at 8. That's Eastern Standard Time. Check out H2G every Friday, 7 p.m. most of the time, except for when we have technical issues 2 weeks in a row. You can find all of our stuff on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all audio platforms. We did start initiating their Q&A segments. So we're putting questions on there. We want to get your feedback. We would love to get some reviews from you folks and know what you'd like to hear in the future. We post it at the end of every episode. We want to know what you think about these topics in particular. And if you send those to us, we will read them on the air. I mean, we want to have this discussion. That's why we made the change. I love doing this. I love you guys. Live, laugh, love like a chill ass.
Oh, and he made sure to get the plug. For me, you know, I'll say this. There's definitely a gap. I'm glad we got to do this topic. I'm glad Christy shared her opinions on it. The only thing I wish is one of us were more defensive on the absolutely at all circumstances. I feel like we didn't really hit that margin, but that's okay because we're not always going to be able to have every perspective. But thank you for that, guys. I really appreciate having it. I don't want to comment on pay other than the best way, regardless of gender, you can increase your pay is leave your company, go to another one. They will pay you more, work a couple years there and leave again. You don't need loyalty. Loyalty is absurd because, as Tony mentioned, the next opportunity they can to budget cut you, they will. I also say if you're trying to get into a job, you got to be careful about your negotiating. I got to counter Christy's point, because when you get in there and you say, okay, I want 50 grand when you're offering me 45, they'll be like, bro, I can get a guy here 40, or excuse me, I can get this woman here for 38. So you do you and find somebody else. It is important to negotiate, find your worth. Appreciate this conversation. I'm looking forward to next week. We're out. Thank you so much.
I kind of wanted to say something else, Richie.
What do you want to say?
I kind of want to say something else before we go.
What's that?
So, really quick, I know I kind of have my last word, but it's part 2 of Tony Blaze.
The last words.
Okay. The last words. So, is there a pay gap that we talked about? Yes. But to everyone's point, I just wanted to thank Justin for his opinion, Christy for her opinion, Richie for his opinion. For the other opinions that I read, like Justin said, this is something that we want. Please feel free to email us, comment, put anything in when you're watching the show down below. We want to know how you feel. If you want us to talk about something specifically, please let us know. To the pay gap part, what are we going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? There's too much in life right now that, statistically, we're just not able to get to where it is that we're supposed to go. And what I mean by that is, when you look at the numbers, we're not really set up for success. There's a specific percentage of people that have it set up, right? What are we going to do to make sure that we're doing what's best for us and for our families? That's what Christy's point was. That's why I wanted to reiterate what she said. Know your worth, know your value, and make sure you do what you need to do for you and your family. Leave that motherfucking job and go to the next, and make sure you get paid more or less, depending on whatever you want. If you want some more off time, you want a different quality of life. I mean, I make $30,000 less than what I was making before. That is a choice. That is a choice because I am not working 90 to 100 hours a week. I get time off. I get holiday pay. I get a lot of different things. You have to know what it is that you want, right? And plus, I know as long as my foot's in the door, I'm coming. I'll get back to where I need to be. I'm just saying, I'm coming. I know where I need to be. So it is what it is. You didn't like that I'm coming part, did you? Is that why you're laughing? I'm gonna say it one more time. I'm coming. I know where I need to be. We'll catch you next time.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Fuck Merry Christmas. No, get out of here. Where's she? Is she over here? Is she this way?
She's up in your corner.
No, Christy. No.
No, you just looking off screen.
No, Christy. No, Christy.
I'm repping it all day, every day.
You said that to Richie's hair that time. All right. Everybody have a good one.
All right. We're out. We'll catch you next time. It's the H2G Podcast. Later.
Ho, ho, ho.
No, ho, ho. I'm coming.
Ho, ho, ho's on the podcast.
And the 4 hoes up on here.